Imagine your mind as a wild river, rushing with thoughts, worries, and plans, all flowing in different directions at once. You're caught in the current, fighting to stay afloat. But what if you could step out of the water entirely? What if the real power lies not in swimming harder, but in simply standing still? Most of us live in a constant swirl of thoughts, thinking about the past, the future, the next thing on our to-do list. But none of it is actually happening right now. We're trapped in an illusion. And the longer you stay in that mental current, the further you drift from peace. Would you believe me if I said that the typical individual spends 58 minutes of every hour daydreaming or dwelling on past or future events? Does it ring a bell? There are many people who think too much. The good news is that this video will show you step by step how to escape this pattern. Meditation, writing, breathwork, and even supplements have all been touted as ways to calm the racing thoughts. Yeah, these can definitely be useful. These solutions will only provide you with short respite. But here's the catch. They require you to realize the fundamental truth that I'm going to reveal. Those won't stay put. They will not alter your mental processes. One of the most prominent modern spiritual teachers, Eckhart Tolle, has written extensively on the subject of the mind and its control. With proper use, the mind is a magnificent tool, he says in The Power of Now. Think about it. The mind, with all its complexity and power, can either dominate us or serve us. When used incorrectly, though, it becomes incredibly harmful. Your thoughts have control right now if you're letting them run the show. However, things can be different. An old issue, overthinking. I am an old man and have known a great many troubles, most of which never happened. This quote by Mark Twain exquisitely encapsulates the spirit of dwelling on hypotheticals. The skill is in making difficulties where none exist, in focusing on hypothetical situations rather than the here and now. Doesn't it wear you out? For many, it reverses the normal process. And even worse, it can feel like you're stuck in a never-ending cycle of thinking about things that happened in the past or will happen in the future, rather than living in the present moment. When it's working for us, the mind is a powerful instrument. The problem arises when it starts to control us. The secret to overcoming overthinking is not to resist it, but to learn about it and release any desire to manipulate it. There is no way to avoid overthinking by using your brain. Your mind will only become still when you stop, the most powerful stop of all. A Tale of the Wild Horse, Reflections on Thought and Abstraction. There was a monarch who owned a great horse in a bygone era. No amount of manpower could tame the untamed, unruly horse. It would simply spur the riders away. A mysterious visitor to the realm once tamed the wild horse with no effort whatsoever. The monarch was taken aback and wanted to know the secret. According to the mysterious individual, all they did was tell the horse to gallop free till it tired. I was able to earn its trust and eventually lead it after that. You have a mind like that untamed horse. More mayhem will be wrought if you engage in combat, grapple with it, or attempt to control it. The secret is to give it room to roam. Allow it to roam freely, unfettered. Be open and non-judgmental as your thoughts come and go. In A New Earth, Eckhart Tolle states, "The mind is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. The power of your thoughts starts to diminish the moment you cease to fight them and attempt to exert control over them." The majority of individuals err in this area. They think they need to master their ideas if they want to be at peace, so they try to bury or otherwise ignore them. However, this results in even greater instability. Whatever you think the world is withholding from you, you are withholding from the world, says Tolle. When you stop resisting and struggling, you will be able to find peace. The power of refraining, a formula for conquering overthinking. Thinking is fundamental to mental functioning. Similar to how waves form in the water, thoughts too arise organically in the mind. Stopping them will be fruitless. There is no way to avoid overthinking by using your brain. You can only achieve mental calmness by stopping the never-ending mental chatter and focusing just on the here and now. Your thoughts become less powerful once you stop paying attention to them. Envision yourself attempting to physically halt the ocean's waves. That can't be done. The same holds true for thoughts. Attempting to stifle them by force just makes more noise. Being physically present is more important. Being cognizant. The key to liberation from the mind, according to Eckhart Tolle, is presence. Your mind will automatically calm down when you give it nothing but your undivided focus in the here and now. You have no control over anything other than the here and now, says Tolle. The key to mind mastery, the influence of awareness. The importance of being fully present and aware is exemplified by a deep story from Buddhism. Are you a god? A journalist once questioned of the Buddha. No, the Buddha responded. Are you a saint? Again, the journalist inquired. No, Buddha firmly stated. So tell me, who are you? The Buddha's response was straightforward. I am awareness, being cognizant. You can put an end to overthinking if you do that. Your identification with your mind, rather than the mind itself, is the problem. What you think about does not define you. Perceiving those ideas is something you do. But in this fast-pacing, uncertain world, it's easy to let our thoughts overtake us and mistake them for our own identity. Everything changes, though, when you take a step back and remember that you are just observing, not thinking. To stop dwelling on your thoughts and start living in the now, you need to change your attention from the thoughts themselves to the awareness that is watching them. This is the way out of the prison of your own thoughts. Génie français. Belief in your identity comes first. You have to know yourself inside and out before you can control your thoughts. Whatever ideas pop into your head are not who you are. Being the consciousness that watches over those ideas is who you are. You are the awareness behind the thoughts, says Eckhart Tolle. If you want to stop overthinking, you have to accept that you are not your thoughts. A train of idea is all that voice is. You embody the emptiness that comes before an idea. You are the consciousness that tracks the ebb and flow of ideas. There are a lot of people who just go through life thinking whatever comes to mind. We fool ourselves into thinking that we control the thoughts that run through our minds. Someone must be watching, if you can pick up on the sound of the voice. Being both the speaker and the observer is impossible. Whenever you come across the Buddha while traveling, it is best to eliminate him. According to Zen Master Rinzai, neither the Buddha nor any notion of him represents reality. Being aware of something before thinking about it is the truth. You can break free of the vicious cycle of overthinking once you realize that you are only an observer and not a thought. The urge to respond to each and every thought that pops into your head has passed. Instead of becoming caught up in your thoughts, you might observe them objectively as they pass by. Escape the trap of constant overthinking. Realize that positive and negative thoughts are interdependent on one another. The mind is just a tool. It has no intrinsic goodness or evil. But when we let ourselves get attached to a thought, it starts to control us. Because of this, it's essential to maintain a level of neutrality while observing both happy and sad thoughts. Every aspect, good and terrible, is interconnected. As Tolle puts it, in the end, they're both hollow. You can liberate yourself from the grip of your thoughts if you learn to observe them objectively. Identifying them as fleeting clouds in your mental sky is the key. The moment you separate yourself from them, they start to flinch. In addition, they begin to fade away after you cease fighting against them. The key to conquering overthinking is not to resist or attempt to regulate it. It's in realizing that you are the consciousness that watches it. Your connection with your ideas changes once you realize this. Being fully present with your mind is all that's required now. There's no longer any need to fix it, and being in that company has a calming effect on the psyche. Ramana Maharshi, an Indian guru, once told a story. An old story goes that in order to see Ramana Maharshi, a tourist had to take 3 planes to India. He persisted for weeks before sitting down with him and finally asking, "Master, would you be able to tell me my identity?" "Go back to where you came from," Ramana shouted, shocking the man and everyone else in the room. They couldn't understand how the master could say this after the man had gone to such lengths to meet with him. "Go back to where you came from" was actually his way of saying, go return to a place before all the stories, before you had any notions of who you were or what you stood for. Retract your steps to before that. Return to the state before ideas. Revisit your initial location. The word retreat is dragonish. As the weary man tells it, we should retreat, because we perish sore, then to create the wheel of time, and as we tread the wheel, ascend the view from the bottom to serve our highest purpose. When you return, what will transpire? It becomes crystal clear to you that you are not your ideas. You are not what you see. Instead of making things, the brain just receives them. Just shut your eyes and breathe deeply. I'll show you. Guess what you're going to think next. Stop what you're doing and give it a go. Since you didn't generate your next thought, you'll discover that it's hard to anticipate it. Accordingly, you are mistaken when you say, "my thoughts." They are not yours. They merely sought you out. You believe you have thoughts, which is the problem, as Sargadatta Maharaj put it. Nothing comes to mind. Imagine farts. They appear out of nowhere. Everyone knows this on an instinctive level. Your response to forgetting anything is, "Oh, it'll come back." This way, you acknowledge that you are not producing the memory, but rather receiving it. In response to any form of thought, a devoted follower of Ramana Maharishi advised saying, "Not me, not my business." Any concept, good or bad, deserves the same level of consideration. The moon is a useful metaphor. The moon gives off the impression of emitting its own light, but closer examination reveals that this is not the case. Its strength comes from the sun, which is its source. Similarly, although it may seem like the mind expends its own energy, in fact, its strength comes from awareness. Some refer to it as the self. Your focus gives the illusion of control to the mind. Asking yourself, "To whom do these thoughts come?" is a powerful practice. After asking this question for weeks and months, the question itself seemed to vanish, and being fully present took over. No mind, no me, no concept of me. If you persist with this exercise, it will be powerful. You come to terms with the fact that you are not what you perceive yourself to be when you accomplish this. You are more than just your physical form. Someone or something watches the body age, but it doesn't age at all. Although your consciousness of aging has a natural expiration date, we would prefer to hold on to it. Your awareness at the age of 22 is identical to your consciousness at the age of 2. You are not the mind, but you do have a mind. Before thoughts may occur, there must be something that can see how thoughts are formed. The last piece of advice is to see what occurs when you put these methods into action. Trust in the current state of affairs is something you cultivate. When you really want something, like a certain result, you tend to overthink things. Overthinking happens when one gets too attached to the result. However, contentment is yours once you know that everything is working out just as it should. Being fully present brings you serenity. The unity of silence is the unity of controlling your thoughts. A long time ago, a king had numerous advisors, but he put a lot of faith in one. In spite of the jealousy felt by their fellow advisors, this one never failed to reassure the king, saying, "All is well," and unfolding as it should. The monarch was receiving a royal haircut when the barber nicked him in the beard one day. The king required sutures when he nearly punctured a vein. The other counselors viewed this as a chance to undermine the counselor who had their trust. His thoughts on the king's mere accident were sought after by others around him. "Everything is going according to plan," the counselor said. Unhappy was the king. "In a fast, what do you mean? All is well and unfolding as it should. I almost died. There was blood everywhere. I have permanent scars. Guards, lock him up in the deepest dungeon." Even though he was still unhappy, the king rode his horse out into nature later that day to clear his head. As he continued to ride, he became disoriented with the passage of time and ended up in a cannibalistic land far from his kingdom. No sooner had he mounted his horse when a cannibal plucked him off his mount. Cannibals got ready to roast the king after tying him up. While returning to the castle, the king reflected, "My counselor was right. If I hadn't gotten this scar, they would have surely eaten me." However, one of the cannibals saw the scar on the king and exclaimed, "We cannot sacrifice him. He is impure. Let him go." Upon his return, the king released his loyal advisor. "You were right. When I took my horse out, I was captured by cannibals, but they saw my scar and decided not to eat me. You were right. All is well and unfolding as it should," he added, opening the entrance to the darkest dungeon. "Yes, but that's not all, king. Who is usually with you when you ride to clear your mind?" the counselor asked, his voice tinged with contemplation. The monarch said, "I am." The therapist stated, "That's right. Had you not locked me in the dungeon, I would have been with you, and they would have sacrificed me instead." All is well and unfolding as it should. As a parting gift, I'd want to share a practice that has helped me tremendously in becoming fully present and aware. Neti neti is a Sanskrit word that translates to not this, not this. Put simply, it suggests that in order to discover your true identity, you must first identify and let go of everything that does not align with it. Because it is only a notion that you perceive, whatever you believe yourself to be is not actually you. It's a notion. It's a thought, a feeling and emotion that you perceive yourself to be. You will reach a state of deep quiet as you do this. The question will vanish, and there will be complete quiet. You will not find an answer. As Rumi, the great poet, once remarked, "Silence is the language of God. All else is poor translation." Come on, let's do this together. Find a peaceful spot to sit. Loosen your shoulders and shut your eyes. Relax and inhale deeply. Try this for a few minutes. With each inhalation, tell yourself, "I am." With each exhalation, tell yourself, "Here." As you take a deep breath in, tell yourself, "I am." Then exhale and repeat, "Here." Observe the reactions of your soul and mind to this straightforward proclamation. Find out if you're black by asking yourself this question, without relying on your thoughts, feelings, perceptions, or recollections. Have you got any white skin? Would you say you're neither? Is that you, a man? What gender are you? Or maybe it's neither. Are you a supernatural creature? Is that a person? Or maybe it's neither. You should start paying attention to the unacknowledged voice in your head. Neither accepting nor rejecting these thoughts will help. Keep an eye on them. Let yourself be fully present in the here and now. Stop attempting to change anything and just be a witness, an observer. Do not even think about attempting to put your ideas into words. Just be in the stillness. That's where the feelings may run free. You were born with this. Reconnect with a home you've never left. Your decision to watch this video comes from a deeper consciousness to become more present in life and to grow as a person. That's why I recommend you to subscribe to this channel as we post new videos every day so you can continue your journey of self-discovery. When you find this message meaningful, comment with the word "now." Let's do this together.